Okay, in yesterday's class, when we were finishing up the end of the hour, we were talking about verbs. And we mentioned that verbs are the weight carriers in a sentence. They have the most work to do. That verbs have two parts, the stem and the ending. And a verb before it's conjugated is called an infinitive. Remember all of that? We were talking about that yesterday. All right, so then we have two more questions to cover, right? What does the first part do, the stem? What does the last part do? So what is the job of the first part of a verb? What's the job of the stem?
To tell you the meaning of the infinitive?
Not to tell you the meaning of the infinitive so much.
To describe what's going on.
Right, to describe the action. So the stem of a verb carries the meaning of the verb. All right? And then the other part, the ending. What does it do? What's its job? And this is a basic understanding where if you get this, it will make conjugating verbs make so much more sense to you. Now, some of you are sitting there and you're not jotting anything down, you're not taking any notes, you're staring off into space. You cannot be successful in this class without tuning in and taking notes. Denora? Right. The ending tells you who is doing the action, and the ending also tells you when the action takes place. All right, so the time frame. Now, I want to show you something on the screen here. Give me just a second. Who does the action? And when the action takes place. Now, several of you, when you were working one-on-one with me, maybe before or after school or during Flex, we looked at a document together that told us, gave us some verb endings. And it looks something like this. Now, this document has been loaded into the Google Classroom under the About tab. So this is a reference document that you have access to all the time. So, when we conjugate a verb, the stem part of the verb, and that's everything that isn't the ending, the stem part of the verb tells us what the action of the verb is. But the ending tells us who's doing the action and when the action is taking place. So if you look at that chart, and I have it up here on the screen, but you can, if you're watching the video, you can pause the video right now and go to Google Classroom, go to the About tab, and open up the chart for conjugating verbs. And you can see in this blue section that's all present tense, if you were to conjugate a verb and use one of these blue endings, everybody who heard you or read what you were writing would know that the action took place in the present tense. And then the specific ending that you would choose to put on the end of the verb would tell you who performs the action. Does that make sense to you? All right. Now, as far as this chart goes, if you chose a green one, then that tells you that it happened over and over and over again in the past. And if you chose one of these purple or burgundy ones, that would tell you that the action happened once or maybe just twice in the past. Okay? So that's why we have different endings, to indicate different time frames. But then the ending that you choose within that particular set, and in our case, within that particular color, because we've done it in different colors, it tells you who did or does the action. All right, so when we conjugate verbs, you are very accustomed to seeing a table that looks something like this, where you have 6 cells in the table. Does that look familiar to you? Yes, okay. So when we conjugate a verb, what subject pronoun is this verb form, this first verb form, related to? I, which in Spanish is? Yo. All right, and this box, what's the subject? You, informal, to. All right. And then this box?
You, formal, or he, she.
Okay, he, she, or you formal, which in Spanish are?
And
Ella, usted. Very nice. All right. Over here, nosotros. Right underneath nosotros, we have vosotros. And then the bottom line, ellos, ellas, ustedes. Very nice. Ellos, ellas, ustedes. Very, very nice. Michael. No, didn't I address all the questions from yesterday?
No, you were missing
What are the two I'm missing?
the last two.
What's the last, what's question number 5? What's the question number 5?
I don't know.
What is your answer for number 5? Oh, I have addressed them already. I've addressed them already because that's what I was doing when I got started here. The stem part of the verb tells us what the meaning is. The ending part of the verb tells us what, who, and when. That was questions 5 and 6. Thank you for double checking with me. That's what was there. Thank you. So we're back to this chart. So the first step in conjugating a verb is to take off the infinitive ending. So if we're working with the verb hablar, we know that those last 2 letters are the ending. So when we conjugate, we take those 2 letters off. And so because that's true, and because the rest of it is the stem, and because these are regular verbs, we're going to leave the stem just the way it is. So when we conjugate, we could, and when we're doing a table, we could just go ahead and write the stem down in every box. See what I'm doing there? What am I writing? I'm writing H-A-B-L in the box. If hablar means to speak, no, I'm not writing the infinitive. No, I'm not. If I'm writing H-A-B-L in the box, what am I writing? The stem. And what does that say? Speak. So I've got speak, 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 speak in my chart. Now I'm going to add an ending that tells you who, right? So if the subject is yo, I'm going to add the ending O, and the O says I, so now this says I speak. I know this is review, but some folks need this. For the to form, I'm going to add AS, now, which says you. Now this says you speak. Everybody's with me so far, right? Everybody's with me so far, right? I got some citizens in the back row who were with me. Now in this one, I'm going to add an A. This says he or she or you formal. He speaks, she speaks, you formal speak. Is this making sense to you? Because this is so important for what we're going to do next. Hablamos, we speak. Habláis, y'all speak in Spain and certain places of Latin America. And hablan, they speak, y'all speak. Do you agree with me so far with what we've done? All right. So what I did was I noticed this is an AR verb. So this is what I'm going to do to conjugate this AR verb. If it's an ER verb or an IR verb, then we'll choose a different column from over here to fill in those spots, right? Right?
Right.
All right. Good. Questions about the present tense, regular verbs. All right. So now we're going to move on and talk about stem changing verbs, okay? Because you know what? You struggled, didn't you? A lot of you struggled. And I discovered in studying the data and having some conversations with students that it's not entirely your fault that you struggled, because the instruction you received didn't explain the why of it all, okay? So I want to explain the why of it all. Will you go with me on that little journey?
Yep.
Okay, so get ready. No, there are not snacks on the journey. Too bad for you. All right, so. Now, one of the things that happened, what I'd like you to do is in your notes real quickly, conjugate comer and vivir in your notebook. Based on what we just did, do comer and vivir in your notebook. And I'll be right back with you. You're conjugating comer and vivir, V-I-V-I-R, in your notebook right now.
All 6 forms?
All 6 forms. You're conjugating comer and vivir. So you guys should see 6 forms, 3 and 3, in your book, or your Chromebook, or whatever you're doing. Okay? Now, if you're doing this correctly, we should get 2 sets of 6 conjugated verb forms that look something like this. Como, comes, come, comemos, comes, accent over that E, and comen. Yes? And then the other one I asked you to do was vivir. I know my voice isn't coming across here. Vivir. And so, to do vivir, it is vivo, vives, vive, vivimos. That nosotros form has an I and not an E when it's an IR verb. Vivis, accent mark over the I, and viven. Are we cool? Okay, now if you had to rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being totally lost and 10 being I'm a superstar, how would you rate yourself on conjugating regular verbs in the present tense? Show me on a 10-finger salute. Okay, so this group feels pretty good. This group feels pretty good. Now, if you're still confused about regular verbs in the present tense, you need to come see me. All right. Now, as I promised, we're going to start talking about stem changing verbs. In order to understand what's going on with stem, by the way, some of you did very well. You had them memorized. You can give them to me. But I'm going to guarantee you, if you understand why a stem changing verb changes and when it changes, your path in understanding verb conjugation is going to just be a lot smoother. So, in order to understand why stem changing verbs change, and when they change and when they don't change, you need to learn the rules for the placement of stress in Spanish. Because the whole deal about stem changing verbs is based on, the whole problem that they have is based on the rules of stress in Spanish. All right? So, here's the first rule. There are only 3 of them. The first rule is if the word ends in N, S, or a vowel, the stress falls on the next to the last syllable. You're going to want to jot these rules down because I'm going to ask you to justify some things in a few minutes based on these rules. Okay? So these are the rules for placing stress in Spanish If a word ends in N, S, or a vowel, the stress falls on the next to the last syllable. All right, second rule. If a word ends in a consonant other than N or S, the stress falls on the last syllable. Why not N or S? Because they're covered in the first rule, right? Because they're covered in the first rule. It's such a weird thing to sit here and give you time to take notes and hear the clacking of keys. It's a new experience for me. Some of you are slapping your Chromebooks, hitting your keys really hard. You do realize you need to slap them. Okay, it's a gentle process. Don't beat your Chromebook. Okay. Okay, third rule is my favorite rule of all of them. If a word doesn't follow rules 1 and 2, it will have a written accent mark. My favorite rule out of the whole bunch. Now, you're getting that down, and I'm going to leave you to talk to me about our old friend hablar. We're come back to this verb. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
How can you tell if it's going to have an accent mark?
It just does. You'll see it, right? You don't have to produce it. It'll be there. Okay? You'll see in just a minute. Hang in there with me. While you're finishing writing those down, I'm going to write down the forms of this verb again. We were just talking about this verb. It is an old friend. We know this verb really well. And so I'm going to write down the forms of this verb. And now what we're going to do with it is we are going to analyze the pronunciation of these various forms of this verb based on what we know about the rules for the placement of stress. Okay, so for example, here is the infinitive of the verb up here. Can you see where I'm pointing? This is the infinitive of the verb. Where does the stress go in the infinitive of the verb? Tamara, where does the stress go in the infinitive? On the last syllable. It goes over this A. Now, it's not marked. That's where we're going to put it. That's why we say hablar instead of saying hablar. We say hablar. This word ends in R, which is a consonant other than N or S. So that makes which rule apply? 2. Because the second rule applies, that goes on the last syllable, so we say hablar instead of saying hablar. All right? Now, let's do the same thing here. This form ends in O, which is a vowel. What rule applies here, Cora? Cora? Amber? Cora? What rule applies if it ends in O? 1, 2, or 3? 1. It ends in a vowel. So that says that the stress goes on the next to the last syllable. So the stress goes here. That's why we say hablo instead of saying hablo. Now I'm telling you, there is a time when you do say hablo, but that's a different tense. That's the preterite, right? You overachievers. That's blow is the preterite. All right. This is blow. Okay, this one ends in S. Chelene, what rule comes into play and where does the stress go? It's not the last rule. It's not rule number 3. It's not the second rule. At least just one. It's the first rule, because if a word ends in N or S or a vowel, the stress goes on the next to the last syllable. So once again, this is hablas instead of hablas. You got to stay with me. This is all going to make sense in just a few minutes. You're saying, this is tedious, you old hag. Yes, but you're going to get somewhere mentally today that you've never been before. I'm taking you on a new journey. Here we go. One without snacks. Here you go. You just had lunch. That shouldn't matter. Okay. Rule number 3. Form number 3. Angela. What rule comes into play? Not 3. Is your name Angela? Then don't answer, because Angela's voice just got really deep. One is what somebody said back there said. What do you think? Do you agree with them?
Oh, what's that?
They said 1.
Oh, that might be right.
You got to know, girlfriend, whether they're right or not. Natalia, what rule comes into play? 1. Why? It ends in a vowel. So, because it ends in a vowel, rule number 1, stress goes on the next to the last syllable. And that's why we say habla instead of habla. Are you with me? Some of you are starting to track with me, right? All right. What about this form? Alma. Where does the stress go? The end of what?
Okay, like rule number 1.
Okay, so rule number 1 says, if it ends in an S, the stress goes on the next to the last syllable. So what letter is it going to fall on? So what letter does it fall on?
The A.
Which A? The first one or the second one? Because it falls on the next to the last syllable. And I love the strategy. They're going, okay, hablamos, hablamos. Yep, it's on that one. But it's the next to the last syllable. Hablamos. Okay? All right. This one's for everybody in the room. But Isabella, tell me where the stress is going to go in this form.
The accented A.
On the accented A. Why?
Because it doesn't follow any other rule and it has written
It has a written accent mark. Duh. So we're going to put the stress over that A. Oblige. If it didn't have a written accent mark, we would have to put the stress back here. But whoever created this language said, we want it over here. Oblige. And put an accent mark on it. Last form. Oliverio.
Okay, it's rule 1 because the consonant is an N.
Yes. So we're going to put the stress here. Oblong. Okay? Now, you've been doing this all the way along. Hablar. Hablo. Hablas. Habla. Hablamos. Habláis. Hablan. Because you've been mimicking your teacher. Now you know why they're pronounced the way they are. So, well, we're going to. Because now we're going to talk about stem changing verbs. Now that we understand all of this, now we're going to talk about a stem changing verb. This is super exciting. Pedir means to ask for. You did this in the chapter where you're talking about the restaurant or food. To ask for, to order, to request. Okay? It is an E to I stem changer. E to I step changer, but for just a minute, we're going to pretend that we don't know that. We're going to pretend to be ignorant. Okay? Now, first of all, I want to address the issue of why is this a stem changing verb? Truth is this, nobody really knows. Okay? Somebody way back in history decided that E between those D, that P and that D was weak. It's just a weak E. And like a lot of weak people, when they get stressed out, they fall apart. That's what's going to go on with this E. But first, we're going to pretend that we don't know that it's a stem changing verb. So we're going to conjugate it as if it worked. So that would give us the forms paydo, paydays, payday, paydemos. It does sound weird to you, doesn't it? Paydees and payden. All right, now, it's really a good thing that this verb is a stem changing verb. Because, I'm sorry, I still think it's funny and I'm 61 years old, but this word, pedo, is a noun in Spanish and it means fart. So you all just wrote fart in your notes. Tricked you. Okay, anyway, so, as I said, it is a stem changing verb. So that when that weak stem vowel gets stressed out, it's going to fall apart and become something else. All right, so now we got to figure out when is it going to change. This form ends in O. Mariana, where's the stress going to go? The next to the last syllable. Is that weak stem vowel? Yeah. Yes, it is. I hope you're tuned in to me. Because it is weak, it's going to fall apart and become an I. Let's look at the to form. Maria, Maria, I just met a girl named Maria. Okay, Maria, tell me, where's the stress going to go in this word? On which E? There's two of them. The first one, is that weak stem vowel E? Yep, so it's going to fall apart and become something different. The lights are starting to go on, aren't they?
Yeah.
All over town. Miguel. Where's the stress going to go in this form? The first E. Is that the weak stem vowel E? Yeah. So it's going to fall apart and become an I. Don't. Jesus. Where's the stress going to go in this form?
E?
No.
No?
No.
Wrong.
I know it.
Mia. Mia. It's not where? It don't change. But where does this, that doesn't answer my question. Where does the stress fall in this form? On the I. So does it fall on that weak stem vowel? No. So it's not going to change. And furthermore, these are These are stem changing verbs. This I is a part of the ending. Oh.
Now it makes sense.
That's two reasons it can't change. It doesn't receive the stress, and it's not in the stem, it's in the ending. Who'da thunk? All right, look at this one. This is the no-brainer one. Andresa. It's where? It's on the accent mark. So does our weak stem vowel get stressed out and change? No. Felipe. Where's the stress go in this form? Which one? There's two of them. The one by the what? No, not here. They're both by the D. Okay, the first one. Does it fall? Now, some of you have gone off task because you got so excited about what I was just teaching you. Come back. Okay. Is this our weak stem vowel?
Yeah.
Yes. So, changes to an I. Now, we have now, hey, listen, tune in to me. We've gotten to the point now where your teacher in Spanish 1 probably led you and said, these are boot verbs. Well, forms inside the boot change, and the ones outside the boot don't. Now, that's an easy way to remember it. But now that you know why, that's even easier. Should be even easier.
Yeah, now it makes sense.
Now it makes sense why they change. Michael, does it make sense? Yeah. All right, now, I want you to take a little side journey with me. And let's think about this verb. Stop talking while I'm talking. I want us to think about this verb in the imperfect tense. Yo form, pedia. To form, pedias. Usted form, pedia. Nosotros, pedíamos. Vosotros, pedías. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, pedían. Those are the forms. Why didn't I change any of the stems? Nick?
Because there's already an accent.
Ding, 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 ding. There's already an accent on the ending. That weak stem vowel does not get stressed, so it does not change. Oliver.
You wrote median twice.
Oh, golly, because I get so excited about what I'm saying. I forget, I'm not paying attention to what I say. Pedias. Thank you, I appreciate that. All right. So you're with me, right?
Yeah.
Now, this concept holds true for most of the preterite as well. Okay? Now, we're not going to use pedir because pedir does change in the preterite. So let's take a look at another one of those verbs. Let's do merendar. In the preterite. Merende, merendaste, merendó, merendamos, merendáis, oops, guys, merendaron. Why did these stems not change?
Would it be like nosotros and would it be estáis?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Like for and guys, we estáis.
Estáis for estar? For vosotros, yes. Estáis.
It doesn't change because all of them, like where the stress would be, it's in the ending or it has an accent mark.
Exactly. Well, that's in the ending too, right? Stress, ending stress, 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 stress. The ending, the stress is always in the ending and not on that weak stem vowel. So that's going to be true pretty consistently through the preterite tense, except for IR stem changes. There'll be something that we'll be lecturing about that later on this school year. But now I need to know whether this was worth my time and effort. Okay, so 10 finger salute again, 0 meaning this meant nothing to me, 10 meaning going, oh, it's all so clear. Show me what you think. Okay, now, yeah, exactly. I can see clearly now the rain has gone. Okay, now, great. If you are still confused, come see me. Make an appointment to come see me. All right, here's what I expect you to do for homework. Have you seen these documents before? All right, so this is a conjugation table. You are using only the first column because we're only talking about the present tense. Now, if you're an overachiever and you want to go on, you can go on, but you're required to do the first column. On one side of the page, you are going to do regular verbs, like from that first set. Regular verbs, like hablar. Okay? Now listen to me. One AR, one ER, one IR. On the back side of the sheet, you're going to do stem changing verbs. One AR, one ER, one IR. You cannot use any of the verbs that I used in my lecture today. You may not use any of the verbs that I used during my lecture today. Now, if you're at a loss as to which verbs to choose, I will post on Google Classroom a chart that tells you, a spreadsheet that tells you which verbs I used for diagnostic number 1, which ones I used for diagnostic number 2. That's all we're dealing with right now, right? Regular verbs and stem changing verbs. On Monday, we're going to come back and look at those first person irregular verbs and all the irregular verbs. But for right now, we're going to focus on just these 2 sets because I want you to know that you know. I want you to build your confidence. All right? So once again, if you don't know which verbs to choose from, I'm going to post in Google Classroom a spreadsheet that lists all the regular verbs I used in the diagnostic and then lists all of the stem changing verbs I used in the diagnostic 2 so that you know what to choose. What may you not choose? The ones that I use. You can use hablar, comer, vivir, pedir, or merendar. Okay?
Okay.
All right, yes, ma'am. Nope, nope, nope. You're only on either side of the paper, you're only doing the first column because you're only doing the present tense. You're not doing the credit or the imperfect. On the front, you're doing 3 regular verbs. On the back, you're doing 3 stem changers. I misspoke when I talked about the back of the sheet. I want an O to UE changer, an E to IE changer, and an E to I changer. Okay? And I'll put my spreadsheet in their 5th hour right away. So you have it available to you. All right? All right. I'm glad this helped. It was nice to see the lights go on. It was nice to see you looking a little more relieved. Yeah, Donna. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'll take it for you. Yep.
Where did you say we put our textbook contract?
In the worker basket, I can take it for you because I know you're going to band. I lost mine. Rubber band. Oh, mercy. Well, I'm not going to be here Tuesday. So, I don't have time right now to go over all of this with you. So, just keep an eye on Google Classroom. Okay, that's the way to find out everything that's going on. No, we don't have to go to high school. No.
Yeah.
Katie McCush to the office. Katie McCush to the office. Thank you.